Have you ever looked at someone like David Goggins and just thought, how? How is that level of raw, almost superhuman willpower even possible? Well, what if I told you it wasn't just some personality quirk, but an actual physical part of the brain that you can train just like a muscle? Yeah, we're going to get into it because the science here is absolutely fascinating.
You know, we usually talk about willpower like it's some kind of gift. You're either born with it or you're not. You've got it, or you spend your life wishing you did. But what if that whole idea is just wrong? What if it's not a gift at all?
So to really dig into this, let's start with the perspective of someone who has pushed the human body and mind to their absolute limits. A guy who probably gets asked about his willpower more than anyone else on the planet.
I mean, can you imagine telling David Goggins he was blessed with a strong mind? His reaction is pretty much what you'd expect. For him, this isn't some gift from the universe. It's not luck. It's something that is forged in fire.
And according to Goggins, that building process is just brutal. It's not a one-and-done thing. It's about enduring absolute misery, and then, and this is the most important part, making the conscious choice to go right back for more, over and over and over again. It's a choice, not your destiny.
Okay, so that's the lived experience. That's the philosophy. But here's where things get really wild. We can now pivot from the battlefield to the laboratory, because it turns out neuroscience is actually starting to prove him right down to a specific little chunk of your brain.
All right, get ready for a mouthful. It's called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, or AMCC. Look, neuroscientist Andrew Huberman says you can call it the Cookie Monster for all that matters. The name isn't important. What is important is what this thing does, and all the latest science suggests it's the absolute powerhouse for your willpower.
And check this out. The correlations they're finding are just incredible. Studies are showing the AMCC is physically larger in athletes. It's bigger in people who have overcome major life challenges. And, get this, it seems to maintain its size in people who live for a very, very long time. Scientists are even starting to call it the potential seat of the will to live. I mean, come on, that is huge.
So, if this part of the brain is so critical, the million-dollar question is pretty obvious, right? How do you build it? How do you make it bigger and stronger? Well, it turns out there is one very specific and totally non-negotiable rule for making it grow.
And here it is. This is the real kicker. The AMCC doesn't grow when you just do something hard. It grows specifically when you do something you actively, genuinely, deep in your bones do not want to do.
Let's make this super clear, because the difference is everything. Say you love pushing yourself in the gym. That's awesome, but it's not building this specific willpower circuit. But let's say you absolutely hate the cold. The thought of an ice bath makes you shiver. If you get in that water anyway, that is when the AMCC gets bigger. The secret ingredient is that subjective internal resistance.
So it's not just about the effort, it's about the internal fight. The source material calls it the friction, the suck, the struggle. That little voice in your head screaming, I really don't want to do this. That's not a sign of weakness. That's the signal telling your brain it's time to build.
But, and this is a big but, this growth isn't permanent. You can't just do one hard thing and call it a day. It's a lot like sobriety. It's a choice you have to renew every single day. If you stop doing the things you don't want to do, that part of your brain can shrink again. It's a daily practice of leaning into that friction.
So now, let's bring it all back together. Let's see how this brand new neuroscience maps perfectly onto the philosophy of the guy we started with. Because David Goggins is, for all intents and purposes, a walking, talking, screaming case study for building your AMCC. He didn't need a brain scan to figure this out. He understood the principle instinctively. He realized that growth only happened when he went back to the things that truly sucked. It's not about enjoying the pain. It's about knowing that facing the pain is the only way forward.
And when it comes to this process, Goggins is brutally, refreshingly clear. We're all obsessed with finding shortcuts, right? But for this kind of deep, fundamental growth, well, there are no shortcuts.
In fact, the only hack is to embrace the difficulty. The shortcut is the long, hard road. Doing the thing that sucks is the hack.
And that really gets to the heart of it all. The real battle isn't with the cold water or the running trail or the weights. The struggle is always internal. It's you against the part of yourself that wants to quit.
Okay, so we've talked Goggins, we've talked neuroscience. What does all of this actually mean for you? How do we take this cool idea and turn it into something real?
First thing you need to get, and this is the most empowering part, you have an AMCC right now. Unless you've had a very specific brain injury, this piece of hardware is sitting inside your skull. This capacity for willpower isn't magic, it's biology.
I love how Goggins puts this. He says we're all lab rats in the experiment of our own life. But here's the twist. We're not just the rat. We are also the scientist in the white coat, designing the maze and taking notes on the results. Just let that sink in for a second. You are the scientist. You are in control. You have the power to consciously design challenges that will physically change your brain. You get to create your own self.
So the only question left is, now that you know the secret ingredient is friction, what's one small thing you genuinely don't want to do that you're going to do anyway? What experiment are you going to run today?